Okay. Two things real quick as we get rolling back into the audience question section of our forum. First of all, one of our candidates has arrived, and we're going to give him a chance to give his opening statement. Secondly, I might have forgotten to mention exactly why candidate Stephanie Gasca is here. She has her own member. I wanted to put that forward. So you
who is that, Harcus? Who's missing?
That was Stephanie Gasca.
Okay.
I read part of her statement from earlier.
Could you spell her last name, please?
Gasca.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So, as we're moving forward, we'll have Mr. Harcus put forth his introduction statement. He'll have 2 minutes, and then we'll move forward into audience questions. Everybody?
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me for being late. My wife coincidentally had asthma, air quality related emergency. But I always put my family first. My name is Marcus Harcus. I'm a Northside native son. I grew up here with my parents and my 4 younger brothers. I love the Northside, so I'm raising my own family here today. I'm a family man, a writer, a community organizer, and a social entrepreneur. My core values are love, freedom, and peace. These are the things that guide all of my decision making in every aspect of my life. I believe, like Paul Wellstone did, that we all do better when we all do better. I'm a guy who is passionate about social justice, community engagement, so that we can help to end some of the systemic oppression in the city and to advocate for more opportunities, more justice, and more safety for all. I have a vision of a city government that prioritizes the needs of the most vulnerable residents, prioritizes people and the planet over government bureaucracies and unethical corporate profiteering. I'm a radical guy. I'm not a one-issue political, but my top 4 platform issues, and I'm trying to think outside of the box, not just speak empty rhetoric and the same old, because the status quo is unacceptable, but advocating for a radical reconstruction of the way we do law enforcement in the city of Minneapolis. You can't tinker around with reform with a broken system like this. I'm advocating for a housing levy bond so we can fund a $250 million housing levy bond so we can fund affordable housing for poor people in the city. Right now, half the city can't even afford their housing. And if you look at the income wealth gaps along racial lines, so-called racial lines, they say no African Americans or Latinos or Native Americans can really afford to live here. So we need to do something about it, not just talking to rhetoric. And I need to stop. See how what I can say.
Thank you. So I'm going to continue with some of these questions that we got. I'm going to do my best to get through as many of them as I can. Again, I'll read the question and then identify the order who will respond and go from there. So first, one of the biggest consequences of climate change is diminished health. What energy equity strategies would you implement to ease the harm, especially to those who are already in the most dire of health conditions? And our order here is Marcus, Philip, and Barb.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
Yes, please.
One of the biggest consequences of climate change is diminished health. What energy equity strategies would you implement to ease the harm, especially to those who are already in dire of health conditions?
Well, I believe we need to, in terms of the adverse effects of dirty energy, I think we need to try to achieve some of the goals that Community Power is laying forward in terms of 100% renewable electricity at all levels, city operations, residential, commercial. But I think we should especially target the polluted corporations in the community and focus on mitigating those special environmental protections.
Philip?
Well, I've got my own health issues that I use medication to keep me conscious. So I understand the dire health concerns. And if people have really dire health concerns, I want to make sure they have access to health care. maybe a liaison to the city and county to deal with them hands-on, which is something that's missing here on a lot of fronts. And if people's health are suffering, well, that needs to be fixed. And well, how do you fix that? Well, you do it step by step. So you look at, well, what's causing the problem? Well, we're dealing with northern metals that are on their way out of town. So you take them step by step and you put them on a chopping block and you hit them with a hatchet. You just chop them out. You surgically remove them. So, but it's step by step. But then, of course, you make sure that the people that are sick get the help they need, whatever that is. So if they need ADA help to make their bathrooms ADA accessible because they can't function anymore because of pollution, if they're suffering from lead poisoning from getting shot, they can't walk anymore in North Minneapolis, you make sure they get the resources they need to get around in their house, that they have a house they can function in and they can use a kitchen, whatever they need to. So those resources, well, they have to come from public dollars. I say we have a tax levy for the whole city and let the other parts of the city pay for this. And when the other parts of the city are paying for this, well, then the solutions will come. Because those smart people will figure out how to do the repairs that need to be addressed.
Philippe?
All right, so the effects, all of the health effects that we are seeing are a result of environmental racism that is disproportionately affected here in North Minneapolis. When we look forward to actually, we talk about energy equity strategies. So it's how do we make sure that we're doing an equitable route of renewable energy and making sure it's accessible. One of the things that I would push for as a city council member is to make sure that the data that we are collecting is disaggregated by race, ethnicity, and income to ensure that our energy effort rollouts are actually equitable. And then, as well as, when we look at this, at our neighborhood, the environmental hazards are really here because we've essentially pretty much been a dumping ground for the rest of the city for generations. And so now we have some pretty serious environmental remediation that has to happen. And so building energy into improving our community's environmental health, I really do feel like those two things go hand in hand. And as a candidate, that's something that I really am passionate about stepping into and really focusing on is improving our community's environmental health and being able to address the equitable issues that we have in terms of accessing renewable energy.
And Barb?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. One of the biggest consequences of climate change is diminished health. What energy equity strategies would you implement to ease the harm, especially to those who are already in the most dire of health conditions?
Well, when I think about health conditions and challenges that we have with our health disparities in our community, I think one of the places you really have to start is in the home. And so energy improvements that increase or that help air quality within the home are important. Those are things that can come out of an energy squad visit. People need to not smoke. We have some of the highest smoking rates in the city. That's terrible. In your home, in your cars, people should not be smoking. So we need to do the things to invest in our housing stock that make the housing situation that people have a cleaner environment so that when you're in your home, you're in a safe place, the air quality is good. That can be accomplished through energy improvements. I also think it's important, again, to look at our schools. Our schools are between home and school. That's where kids spend most of their time. So what are we doing to make sure that our schools are energy efficient, that the improvements that are made in the schools to make them more energy efficient also contribute to better air quality in the schools. We also have to take advantage of some of the changes that are happening in the industrial world to make sure that we get rid of some of these polluting industries that have been established in our community because we are a working class community. The reason that we have some of these industries here is because people had jobs in those industries. But unfortunately, they haven't kept up with the times, and they need to go.
So, second audience question. This is a long one, so I'll try to make it as clear as possible. Part of environmental justice is to ensure community members have access to jobs in the clean energy economy. There is a proposal to put a multi-purpose training facility here in Ward 4 on Plymouth Avenue. That might be Ward 5, but nearby. This facility would provide apprenticeship training to community members as a pathway to quality union jobs in emerging industries like solar installation. The city has a great deal of influence in the facility's creation. Where do you stand on this specific project, prospect, and similar proposals? If you favor them, how would you support the process? If you oppose them, how will you handle the proposal? We have Philip, Barb, and Harcus.
Kind of a complicated question. The football stadium went up, and they were supposed to use local help. Well, they didn't. We have Summer Academy right here. I don't think we had a treasure trove of graduates from Summer Academy working on the football stadium. So we have one failure already. So if they're going to put this in, well, I honestly don't know. You know, if people want to work, well, they can work. They can go out and get the education. They can get a leg up on the competition, and they can eke out a living. If they need the training, they can go to WOTAC. We have HCC. They have great programs. Resources are available, and I don't know, frankly, that just putting in another facility here is a solution. Thank you.
Phillipe?
All right, well, I think that it is very much so necessary for us to get on this train of green jobs because an organization did a study of all 50 states to see, you know, with the resources that are available, how long would it take for them to move to 100% renewable energy, and it's projected to take Minnesota to 2050. But throughout that entire process, I don't have the exact numbers, but we're talking about something like, I believe, 36,000 construction jobs and about 26,000 jobs that are 40-year jobs, meaning somebody can stay in that same job for 40 years. So across the state, so it's a massive opportunity for jobs. When we look at folks who are kind of stuck and stagnant in these dirty energy spaces and work, we're not giving folks an exit ramp out of that, right? We're not giving them other opportunities to be able to explore similar fields that they're interested in. So I am a huge supporter of career pathways. Being able to, like, especially if we can get pipeline programs into unions, into labor, that's really important because, you know, we have had a demonization of labor in unions for generations basically now. And so this could be an opportunity for us to look at justice in a very deep way. So being able to have increased union participation, and then really, as a city council member, I will absolutely support bringing these jobs here and support folks pursuing them because I think it's a huge, huge opportunity.
Barb?
Well, I think this question is about a specific proposal that the Workforce Center on Plymouth Avenue and Emerson Avenue North is, I think, what they're talking about. The state of Minnesota is partnering with the new Workforce Center that's going in on Broadway, and so this piece of land and building is available. And I'm familiar with the development proposal, and I think it is important. Actually, we did have a lot of Summit Academy graduates that worked on the Viking Stadium, on the stadium. Summit Academy provides a great opportunity for people to get training in our community. They're a wonderful resource in North Minneapolis. Minneapolis Community Technical College also has programs. They have solar programs, and so I think we need to evaluate whether we build a whole nother training facility for industries, or we try and support the existing pipeline that we have through our education system. But you know, there are places that one of the challenges is if you look at some of the union training facilities, is they're very far. Some of them are in St. Michael. You know, they're really far out of town. So what is it that we could provide in our community that would be easy access for people, like Summit Academy is? Where are the gaps? Where are the kinds of industry that you could be training in a facility like this? So I'm I'm very open to this.
Marcus?
Yes, I definitely support this training facility. I love that it's planned to be built in our community. I love that it's going to focus on creating opportunities for low-income people of color who need it the most. Years ago, I worked for Hire Minnesota as the coalition organizer. That's where I met you. And Ray started teaching me about these things, which I have a lot to learn still. And during that job, I helped to get some funding through the state to help provide some of these green jobs training. Obviously, we need elected officials who are staunch advocates for clean energy, for 100% renewable energy, and who have this racial equity lens, who are committed to creating these opportunities. But I'm definitely wholeheartedly in support of that effort. And if we're going to achieve 100% renewable energy, we have to create the workforce to build it, create a green infrastructure.
Thank you all. This is going to be a much briefer one. What are your thoughts on the Minneapolis composting and zero waste programs? And our order here is Philippe, Marcus, Barb, and Philip.
So, okay. I think that I first have to say that when the compost program was rolled out, that I had like a really deep moment of like, that's my city. Because I feel like that way is to gauge a city's progressiveness and how it's showing up with its values. Really is if a city honestly collects compost. It's still rare to see. And so it's really exciting because in order for us to move to a zero waste city, we have to reduce our waste stream. And food is the highest producing waste, only second to the wrapping that it comes in. And so for us to reduce our waste stream, particularly around food, is hugely impactful. It's really exciting. I know that lots of my neighbors are a part of the program and utilize the program. I think it's definitely, like I said, very necessary. It's important to name that when it comes to the composting program, that again, the incumbent voted against it. And so when we look at North Minneapolis and accessing resources and opportunities, we want to reduce the waste stream, and that includes here in North Minneapolis.
Marcus? Sure. What are your thoughts on the Minneapolis composting and zero waste programs?
Well, my dad used to compost in my backyard. It's not something that I practice, but so I'm familiar with it, and I think it's a great idea. And I mean, considering how much the planet is at risk of being unsustainable, I think we need to commit 100% to a zero waste city. But that's going to require a lot of education, a lot of door-to-door outreach. Because even people like me, even though my dad composted, I don't know how to compost. And so we can have this program, but unless you meet people where they're at and help to educate them, help to motivate them to help to save the planet, we're not going to achieve it. So I like the concept, I like the idea, but we need to think about how to make sure that we have 100% participation. And that's going to take a lot of door-to-door, block-by-block organizing, public education.
Barb?
Well, I want to make it crystal clear, this is the second time I've heard this, that I voted against composting, and it's absolutely incorrect. What I voted against was imposing a $4 fee on your garbage bill for a service that you were not going to get for a year. So that is what I voted against. I support composting. As was pointed out, it's the largest portion of our garbage that we produce. And it's important that the neighborhood associations, that communities that work, or that organizations that work with communities understand how important it is to get people enrolled in organic collection. We're at about 40% now in our city. Ours on the north side is much lower than that. And we need to do a greater education initiative to make sure that people understand how important it is and how easy it is actually. So I want to make it again crystal clear, I did not vote against composting. I voted against raising your utility bill for a service that you were not going to get.
And Philip?
I compost and I recycle. And at the flower shop, the last time we've actually had our dumpster tip was probably 12 years ago. Because we recycle everything, or we compost. So I've got a dumpster from what was BFI. It still says BFI on it. That's how old it is. It hasn't been tipped for years. It's in the garage. My bike is in it that Will tried to fix a couple of years ago. You know, it's a storage. I use it for storage now. I think Will stepped out. But it's turned into a storage bin, okay? I use it for storage. So I understand how this works, because I've been doing it for years. And it's important. It's very important. And maybe being here in North Minneapolis, where sometimes folks are slow to come around, we have to incentivize the composting aspect of what we want people to do. Maybe a rebate on their utility bill if there's some success, but then we have to measure what people are doing somehow. So some means to the end. How do we rank success? So that would be what I would work towards.
So here's a question. I believe there is at least one ideal site for a community solar garden nearby in North Minneapolis. What does the community need to do to make this a reality? And it says the site is just down the street. Our order here is Barb, Phillipe, Phillip, and Harcus.
Well, I'd be interested to know whoever wrote the question, where the site is.
The east end of Dowling, where it crosses I-94, there's a big parking pad there between Washington Avenue and the freeway.
Okay.
Empty.
Okay. Well,
That's a
actually,
plan
yes.
of UHC.
Okay, it's part of the Upper Harbor.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, right now, it's not empty because it's being used to stage construction for 94, but I know what you're talking about. That is public land, so it makes it much easier. I'm sure as we move forward on the Upper Harbor, that is something to be considered. We've got 50 acres that are part of the Upper Harbor, Dave, and so that is important, I think, to, as I said, actually people are talking about solar on the roofs of the existing warehouse building that's there. We have some assets in the Upper Harbor that are going to be unique, and that are unique, and we need to look at all kinds of different things. So I appreciate that thought, and I hope you participate in some of the planning for the Upper Harbor. I know I've seen you at some of the meetings, and it's good if you keep your presence known and your thoughts known. So thank you.
Phillipe?
Yes, so I'm not sure if this question is actually meant to be procedural, but I will share the terms of the process of how I would show up to it is bringing the stakeholders together that it's relevant to then be able to leverage that and then roll it out together. So we already kind of talked a little bit about procedurally what that would look like, but in terms of the process, that's how I would engage. Just make sure that we have all the right stakeholders at the table, including folks who have the information and knowledge to be able to leverage that.
Philip?
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. I believe there's at least one ideal site for a community solar garden nearby in North Minneapolis. What does the community need to do to make this a reality?
Well, I think the community would have to work to try and get the utility companies to pay more than they're offering to make them viable. When I looked at putting one on my roof across the street, they were offering me a wholesale rate to buy the power that the array would produce. Level power. And it's who's going to benefit from it? So somehow there has to be create an evidence manual of who would be beneficiaries of this and at what price. So we have to put a think tank together and create a formula for success, and somehow Excel Energy get them to pay more for the power, because they would be buying it back. The power is not going to magically go from solar array on Washington Avenue to the new whoever took over orbit there, the resource folks, or to my flower shop. It's going to go back into the grid. So the dynamic there has to change, and the community here could help foster that environment. Change.
Marcus?
Well, I support as many community solar gardens as it's feasible to develop. is education about what it is, how it benefits them, and how we can get it done on a cooperative basis. And there's people like you, David, who understand these things, community power we can turn to, Minnesota 350. But in order to get people to adopt these great ideas, they need to understand it, and like you say, how it benefits them directly. I would like to say that I do support energy municipalization, because ultimately I think the greatest obstacle to achieving these goals are the utility companies themselves.
So, question. If a voter has their mind made up about their first choice candidate, and it isn't you, what would you say to ask for their second choice vote? And we are going to go Barb, Phillip, Marcus, and Phillip.
Well, I would say I have a record of accomplishment in representing the people of the 4th Ward in Minneapolis, and I've actually been thinking today about some of the things that have taken place in this community since I began in office 19 years ago. And I look at a $30 million investment in the NSP, Neighborhood Support Program, which let us rehab over 200 homes after foreclosure. A $25 million investment in the Humboldt Greenway, a $25 million investment in the Lowry Corridor, North Mississippi Regional Park that was integral to getting that into our Minneapolis park system, establishing the first interpretive center in the Minneapolis park system. 50 green homes have been constructed in North Minneapolis, 50 more are on the books, getting ready to go. 60% of those homes have been sold to people of color. 50 more are in the works. We have a Weber Park Library that's opening in the middle of May, brand new library. Weber Park Natural Pool opened last year. We have new businesses, Roots Birthing Center, New Horizons Daycare, Canton Tavern redone, installed this sign company, a Banana Blossom, Aldi store, 44th Avenue North pedestrian improvements, and better traffic flow through that intersection in a cooperative venture with Hennepin County. 2 flood ponds that have decreased flooding in our neighborhoods, one in the Victory neighborhood and one in the Shingle Creek neighborhood. A greenway along 37th Avenue North that has decreased flooding in that neighborhood and offered a neighborhood amenity. Affordable housing complexes, and 200 plus new construction units of homes in our community. So I would tell people my record stands for itself. Thank you.
Wow, that's a whole lot to follow. And, I don't know how anybody can come up with that. But what I will say is I've been self-employed since the day the first space shuttle blew up in January 1986. I walked off the job. I walked out the front door. They mailed my paycheck to me. I never looked back. I said, well, there's got to be more to life. And I've been doing it as a self-employed person ever since. So, yeah, I can bring that independent spirit to City Hall, and having been an entrepreneur, really from a very young age, I've always been able to take something and turn it into something else, which I think is just an intrinsic asset for almost everybody in my family, and that will play to my favor as a city council person. And with the challenges that we face in Minneapolis, many things have to come in and go out completely different. So that requires, a whole vast new way to think. We've been here since 1992, and, I've seen things ebb and flow in North Minneapolis, and I really particularly haven't liked what I've seen the last 3 years, and that's what's compelled me to run as a candidate and ask for your vote.
Okay, so, I've run for office before. I've walked on every single block on the north side, 5th and 4th Ward. I've knocked thousands of doors. I've interviewed about 800 people just over at the north side with my campaign. And like 400 in the northeast in the past time. So I think I have the most grassroots community organizing experience. I think my work history as a coalition organizer, as a community relations manager, as an executive director, gives me a wide variety of skills which include, I'm a writer, not too bad at public speaking. I'm a project and campaign management experience, although it's impossible to do that for yourself as a candidate. Event planning, research, data analysis, lobbying. I've helped to pass or change some laws at the city and the state level, done work with the Met Council. I think, I've been paying attention to electoral politics for about 20 years, and you see most candidates run to be something, this public figure, more than they run to do something. And I've been pushing to try to create structural changes on the outside, for a long time, and I'm tired of feeling unrepresented. So if you elect me, you're probably going to get the most authentic, most courageous, most progressive candidate that you'll find. And these are all good candidates. Well, most of them are good candidates, but I think that the voters need to be more sophisticated about what the community really needs in terms of representing everyone, and not just people like ourselves.
If I'm not your first choice, I forgive you. I hope that you will consider me for your second. So what I bring to the table is my greatest strength, I feel like, is building power across differences. And then also, I'm a pretty big policy wonk. So I really nerd out for the policy and governing piece. So bringing that, but really, what you will find in me is an ally. Because what I want to do is, I want to build an inside-outside strategy. So I'm really good at organizing within the system. I have been working in City Hall. I've done citywide work with things that have to do with young folks, with things that have to do with LGBTQ rights, things that have to do with racial equity. So I've built a lot of work, and I can see those spaces where community can be having more voice in the decision-making process, and where there can be more collaboration with the community. You can check out my website to be able to see a list of my accomplishments. The thing that I bring to the table is that my accomplishments and experiences that I bring and show up with have uniquely prepared me, I feel, to serve this community with excellence. I've been a special education teacher. I've specialized in working with kids with low incidence disabilities, so Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism, and the work that I've done there, as well as my youth development work. So really, the work that I have done shows that I have the connection to humans and understand how humans work, and that really matters when it comes to government, because right now our government is working from a place of institution focused, and I want to move us to be human focused.
So we have a very simple one, and I'd encourage, if you can answer this really quickly, to do it so we can get on to further questions. Will you publicly commit to never outlaw, license, or regulate a homeowner's personal rainwater collection system? Marcus, Phillipe, and Barb. I hope this will be simple.
It'll be a yes or no.
Will you publicly commit to never outlaw, license, or regulate a homeowner's personal rainwater collection system? So rain barrels or other system for collecting rainwater?
Yes, I'll publicly.
Philip.
Okay, well, this isn't so funny for me. Surprise. Across the street, we have a lot of built-up surface, and the city sent me a bill for $17,000 for rainwater runoff. So my response was, pound sand. Okay? So, this isn't fun. No, this is a serious question. Whoever submitted it, they had a reason why they wanted an answer to this. So, the city needs to work with people for storm sewer runoff. It's a serious issue. And this came up because of mandates by the state of Minnesota. It's not a city issue. And we're caught in the middle. They sent Bachman's with all their greenhouses, and the Wagner greenhouses bills for storm sewer runoff that were more than their property tax bills, which is obscene. So Wagner's greenhouse now, they collect their rainwater and they run it to a filter system. Well, that wasn't enough. The city's billing them now a mechanical equipment fee for the filtration system they use to filter the storm sewer runoff. We can't win. So that'll be next for people people with their buckets, well, they're going to be charged for their filters. The city's going to find a way to add to the coffers, and that is something I will work to prevent. It's not funny.
A lot of municipalities are trying to claim rainwater as a public, as a city resource, and so you don't own the rain that falls on your house. So the city owns it, so you cannot collect it. And I think that.
Well, maybe I'm missing part of the picture here, but they charge you to let it run off your property and down the storm sewers.
Right, I know, that seems really nice.
I think we're at time for this question. Sorry, don't want to.
Yeah. This is a complicated, this one little easy question, it's not so simple.
So I'm going to go on to Phillipe.
Okay, we can come back to this another day.
When I found out that cities regulated that, I was dumbfounded, to be honest. I was like, wait, you can't collect water from the sky in your own backyard? To me, that was very confusing. So I will publicly say that I will not agree with that. I think it's a ludicrous thing. Like, talk about government doing the most, like that is the most. So, yes, folks can collect water in their backyard.
The city of Minneapolis does not forbid people from collecting water in their backyard. The only thing I would think about is it should be done in a way, that is careful, because we do have an issue in this community, in this country now, about mosquitoes. That's the only thing that I thought. You just have to be careful that you don't provide a mosquito breeding ground with water. So covering it, like people have their downspouts with not netting so much. It's the downspout goes right into the barrel, and then water comes out through the outside. It's contained, I guess is what I'm saying. But I don't. And stormwater is that is an EPA requirement. We want to make sure stormwater is dealt with by property, so that you don't have paved surfaces that let all the water run off and run into the Mississippi River. It's not good. So we want to encourage property owners to treat their stormwater in their yard. That's why we have rain gardens. We have subsidized rain gardens across residential properties in this community to try and keep stormwater on the property.
Several climate action initiatives call for increased bus and bicycle ownership. One barrier to this is safety. How would you, as a city council member, work government to meet these climate goals? We have Phillipe, Barb, and Harcus.
Okay, I'm confused. Climate goals and bicycle safety?
Yes. Several of the climate action initiatives are calling for increased bus and bicycle ridership, and one of the barriers is safety.
Okay, all right. In a nutshell, have our city here allow our police department to stop people and impound their cars when they're driving without insurance, running us down and driving through our houses. It would be a good place to start on a block here in North Minneapolis, Ward 4 and Ward 5. There's an astounding number of people here. If you ask Killebrew, our chief ticket writer here, he'll tell you 81% of our drivers here don't have insurance. If you call Mark Calda with our Insurance Federation of Minnesota, he says the number is 60 to 70%. So, right there, these people are operating vehicles illegally. Now, if you take them off the streets, bingo, instantly, our streets will become immensely safer, much more safer. You want to have cars with the preponderance that they do, getting houses, driving through my business. A car drove through my business when it was 1800, no insurance. I'm still suffering the wrath of that. And you talk about safety and bikes. A girl was run over on her bicycle on Thomas. So why are you getting run? Well, why do they do that? That was on Sunday. Because these fools don't have insurance. So, there's a whole lot that needs to be addressed with safety in North Minneapolis. How many other safety questions are there? Should we just get them out of the way?
More mass incarceration.
Right.
Okay, well, you laugh at it. You wait till they run you down, and see how people feel when they're mourning your loss. Okay? The police were chasing. I still have 20 seconds. The police were chasing a woman.
I gotta stop time.
It's a
Well, I'm going to tell you this. There There was a police chase, there was a
Yeah.
I'm gonna bend the rules.
We're not going to make exceptions for you. You need to stop.
Okay, so,
Can I hear the question again?
yes.
After all that, I may have
So,
gotten lost.
several climate action initiatives call for increased bus and bicycle ridership. One barrier to this is safety. How would you, as a city council member, work intergovernmentally to meet these climate goals?
Yeah. All right. So there are a lot of folks in the city who are doing really good work around bicycle safety, and so I think that what I would do as a city council member is work with folks like we have the bicycle advisory committee at the city, and just as like one example of being able to bring folks together to find the key places. Like we don't necessarily need bike lanes on every street, but there are key places where if we have bike lanes, that will significantly increase safety. So looking around intentionality, the data, and working with folks. The thing is about safety is, like you said, intergovernmentally, there's a lot of different players involved. So for us to be able to increase safety, we need to make sure that we have all the right stakeholders at the table, and I will absolutely do so.
You know, it is interesting when people talk about public transportation, that there is, one of the issues that comes up is people's fear of being a victim of crime or putting up with bad behavior on our public transportation system. And so that inhibits people's desire to use public transportation. The other thing that I think is important up here is that we have more access to some of our express routes. We also are looking at bus rapid transit on our arterial streets, Penn Avenue, Emerson, and Fremont. Bus rapid transit is a great investment, but again, it's intergovernmental because the funding for that comes through the federal government, the state of Minnesota, and then the Metropolitan Council. So we have to work to make sure that funding comes through. We've got a big logjam going at the legislature right now. But I do think it's important if we invest in these things to make sure that people feel safe using our public transportation. And the new bus shelters will have cameras, they'll be more lighted, better lighted, that sort of thing, so that people have confidence to use them, because that is a real factor in people deciding to use public transportation in our community.
Harcus?
Well, one of my goals, if I am elected, is to try to get on the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee so that I can help shape the city's agenda at the state capitol. And part of that would be to lobby for greater investments in mass transit, public transit. I think we need to, I'm not sure exactly how well the city partners with the Met Council, but I think we need to do that to create more strategies to have safer mass transit. I definitely support more bus rapid transit so that people don't have to wait forever for each route. I spent a lot of time last year in a city in Louisiana that had no bike infrastructure. So I told them where I was from, and they were like, oh my God, that's a biking country. But I still think we can do better. I won't go there right now. But I would definitely be turning to groups like the Minneapolis Bicycle Coalition and other groups that advocate for better public transit, for more walkable communities.
So, how will you address hostile enforcement? So there's a case of a man in Orono who had his wind turbine condemned and then was jailed over inadequate removal of the concrete foundation. So the core question here is, how will you address hostile enforcement? And we have Philippe, Marcus, Barb, and Philip.
Well, I can start off by saying that I am against hostile and punitive enforcement across the board, not just in this particular area. So, I think that this would really fall within my purview of, like, when it comes to public safety, approaching it through a public health lens. So looking at, taking a step back and looking at larger systemic issues, that crime and safety, or crime and violence, are symptoms of systemic issues. So if we have somebody who has like a concrete issue, like do we really want to negatively enforce them and then begin their involvement with the criminal justice system? That just doesn't feel like a very productive way to move our community forward in any way, shape, or form. So I definitely push back on that and would proactively, as a city council member, really explore ways to be able to address the issues that currently are being addressed hostily and punitively. So how do we get ahead of that? How do we make sure that we get folks on track and give them an exit ramp for whatever they're doing that is out of compliance? But like jailing somebody is the most.
I too am also against hostile enforcement of nonviolent victimless crimes. It's laughable, but it's like a tragic comedy because the reality is law enforcement is overzealous about finding any and every way that they can suck people into this criminal justice system. The prison industrial complex. So I'm absolutely opposed to that. I think one of the things we need to do to transform law enforcement is to change the paradigm, because now they measure effectiveness based on the quantity of arrests as opposed to the quality. So I think with law enforcement, we need to prioritize what are real public safety threats. Violence and people breaking in your own, stuff like that. Property crimes and violent crimes. Everything else, we don't need to be disenfranchising people. That's how you create crime. That's why people can't afford a service, because they don't have the income to do it. And you talk about everybody can get a college education, but you have lawyers who are making $11 an hour as receptionists. You have all kinds of people with master's degrees who don't have a livable income. So that's not the answer. And that's why I support 15 now, but I think we need to go further, because that's not going to provide anyone with any economic security. That's why I'm advocating for a basic income guarantee. We need to think about the future of work and the future of how the society is going to be able to sustain itself. So we need to think outside the box. Status quo is just not going to help us.
So repeat the question, will you please?
Sure. So how will you address hostile enforcement? And there's this case of this man in Orono who had his return condemned and then jailed over inadequate removal of the concrete foundation.
The city of Minneapolis does not use the criminal system to enforce our regulatory conditions. That would not happen in the city of Minneapolis. We use a civil system. So someone, if they refuse to clean up their yard, they get an order, they need to comply with the order in a certain time. If they don't, they're fined. It's a money thing. It's not, you don't go to jail. And it's actually been very, very effective to incentivize people, get them in the pocketbook where it hurts for not doing the cleanup of their yard that all their neighbors are asking for. And it eliminates our housing inspectors sitting in court. It's a better way of doing business. So this would not happen in the city of Minneapolis, because we don't use the criminal system to enforce our regulatory issues.
And Philip?
Well, if somebody wanted to put a wind turbine and generate some electricity to power the fish tank in their backyard here, I'd give them my blessing. Absolutely. And there wouldn't be anybody chasing anybody with a lasso or, would drag them off to jail. No. It's preposterous. I don't know how this thing blew up like it did in Orono or wherever it is, but I'm guessing there's more to the story. There's got to be a backstory to that story. It doesn't make sense. And in my lifetime, when I found things that don't make sense, well, generally, they're not true as they're presented. So I wouldn't believe it the way it's presented. Thank you.
So I did receive 2 additional questions, but we are about at time, and I wanted to provide an opportunity for a closing. So I'm going to ask a final closing question, and then if you're one of those 2 people who did not get your question answered, I would invite you to talk to the candidates directly as we close, just so we can wrap up and respect everyone's time. So to close, what innovative energy projects or plans in Ward 4 excite and inspire you? In your role in City Council, what would you do to help them?
How many seconds?
Same, 90 seconds. So I'll say it again. What innovative energy projects or plans in Ward 4 excite you and inspire you? And in your role on the City Council, what would you do to help them grow? Barb, Philippe, Phillip, and Harcus.
One of the things that I think is really exciting is that we have an opportunity with the Upper Harbor, 50 acres that is owned by the city of Minneapolis, to think about how we would use energy in that redevelopment that will happen. You know, are there ways to do a partnership? I had thought, and I guess it's not practical from what I understand, about bringing excess steam from Excel under the river and trying to use the steam that way, but that plant doesn't operate all the time, so that did not make sense. But I think we have an opportunity to think really outside the box. I appreciate your suggestion about the solar garden in that parcel. That's a really narrow parcel. You know, I don't know what else we will see there. So I just think we have, as we work with the developers that we've chosen for the Upper Harbor, I think we have an opportunity to think about how energy would be used in a discrete development of 50 acres that the city owns.
Philippe?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was also going to mention Upper Harbor Terminal as an opportunity that's really exciting, but that's a specific project. So thinking about within the community, I'm really excited about this RFP around the community solar garden. What I would really like to champion as the city council member for the 4th Ward is really expanding solar and as well as solar jobs and really being able to begin to create more of a green economy in this particular part of the community. Again, expanding access to community solar gardens is something that I would really want to champion, as well as get more solar on rooftops, really being able just to expand the access as much as possible with the available space. So if anybody else knows a narrow parcel that needs something to do with it, let's do it. So I'm just saying, like, these have really big return on investment, so I'm excited about the opportunity here. Thank you.
Phillip?
Yeah, I think solar is catching up with LED lighting that uses a minimum amount of energy to produce light, where we could put solar lighting in on bikeways and in high crime areas to prevent some of the goings-on that go on, to help our community thrive, raise their families, feel safe in their environments. And, you know, repeat the question, please?
Yes, so, what innovative energy projects or plans in Ward 4 excite you and inspire you?
Well, that would excite and inspire you. Finding ways where people could feel safe and comfortable in their environment. So this would be one thing that I would excite me. Thank you.
And Marcus?
Okay. So I'm really excited about the possibility of developing, green infrastructure at the residential level, especially. So the idea of inclusive financing that Community Power introduced to me sounds very exciting. It's a way where every home could have its energy efficiency increased without upfront costs, without credit checks, without debt. And that savings comes with the reduced cost. And so I love that idea. I would love to see the increased amount of solar used on residential homes. And I think most of the money that the government collects through taxes should be invested in people. So I would like to see somehow the city partners more effectively with people in ensuring that they can reduce their individual and family carbon footprints. Solar gardens are exciting too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal question and answer period of our forum here tonight. Let's have another round of applause for our candidates. Volunteers that have made this possible this evening. We invite you to discuss, meet, and mingle while we help us straighten up the place. So our hosts are inclined to play host to such events in the future. Thank you all for coming out. Good night.